We were kind of idealistic, so I think in a sense we thought we were fighting like a culture war. Obviously we lost because nu metal is as big as ever and the younger generation loves it. A lot of people misunderstand shit talking and the jackass vibes. In reality, we just like loved art so much and we were very protective of like our version of that. We were offered like millions of dollars a few times to sell Buddyhead and we were just like, that's lame. Like I'm not a sellout. It's just the death rattle of that world. It's before everyone got a cell phone, before everyone got like 5 social media pages. People are still bored, you know, which is, we're learning kind of a good thing for creativity. My name's Travis Keller. I started a website in 1998 called Buddyhead. I guess we were one of the first people to kind of like not sugarcoat things and kind of like talk a lot of shit online. I couldn't think of a URL. I thought it would be like super temporary. And I was walking by a grade school in West Hollywood and some kid called me a Buddyhead. And I was like, oh, I'll use that, it'll be temporary. I mean, if I knew I'd be talking about it 25 years later and like putting it on the backs of records, like I totally would have spent more time thinking about it. But yeah, it means nothing, but people don't forget it. I grew up in Idaho, which in the 90s, pre-internet, was kind of a cultural wasteland. And I moved to LA in 97. Because I grew up in Idaho and it was boring, I taught myself HTML. So I was one of the first people I knew that knew how to make websites. So we kind of just had like a jump start on everyone, and that's how Buddyhead started. And the Icarus Line formed kind of at the same time. We had a very symbiotic relationship. The site gave them exposure, and they kind of like legitimized the site because we would be out on tour with bands or at festivals, or we were like in the mix. I started the website just because I was a photographer. That was kind of like my security blanket. I was a late bloomer and I wasn't very social, and having a camera kind of gave me something to do.
You and your probing camera.
We came from the world of zines and all that, so it just made sense to us to like, it became like a webzine from that. There was really like no plan, just kind of like what me and my friends did, and it just kind of snowballed into that.
Just like Travis Keller stole that really nice double VCR from the church back home in Idaho.
We would stay up like all night putting up like a whole issue. It was like the internet just moved differently, right? Like in one day there'd be like 20 new features. So it'd be like a bunch of reviews, an interview with so-and-so, a cartoon on this, scams on how to get free shit, like whatever it was, and it would be an issue and we would drop that. And then that would take like days for people to like digest or even see. Because like now, like you're like scrolling and you'll see a fucking 1,000 things before you're even awake. I think I was surprised when we started Buddyhead, and like at first it was like, just our friends reading it, and then, before we knew it, like the bands we didn't know that we were playing shows were reading it with it, and then whoa, there's bands like in Florida reading it, or there's like people, and then, oh, whoa, the whole music industry is reading it. We would get 9.5 million hits a month, like every A&R guy's reading it, and they're like talking about, what I mean? Like every time it went to somewhere, it was like, it's crazy, people care what we think.
Do.
What we're known for is the gossip page, and it would kind of be like a news of what's happening in the music industry, and people would send us like celebrities' phone numbers or just like tidbits. We kind of got like a repertoire with people, and people would just start dishing us info all the time. So we would get sued all the time by celebrities. Like we'd be like, call Courtney Love and ask her about killing Kurt, or call Fred Durst at his office and tell him Limp Bizkit sucks. One of my hustles used to be going to labels and either like stealing CDs, not stealing them, but they'd give you free promotional CDs, and then I would take them to Amoeba and sell them. And sometimes hit 3 or 4 A&R guys a day, end up selling them and get like a couple grand. Like that was like one of my main hustles. So we were always like hitting major labels to kind of like just get free shit. It was the era of free shit. There was still like physical, they would let you into the record closet, and you could like fill a bag as fast as you could, basically, It's almost like a game show. And we were talking to this guy, and at the end of the meeting, he was like, hey, do you want to go to Fred Durst's office down the hall? And he was like, he's out of town. And we were like, yeah, sure, that'd be fucking amazing, let's go. And we went, his secretary was there, and the dude from Interscope's like, hey, I'm just gonna let these guys in the office. And she unlocked it and locked the door behind us, and we were like in Fred Durst's office with like, gold records on the wall and shit, and we were just like, what now, And so we just started opening up all these closets, and One of them was just like red hats, like top to bottom, like no joke, like it was like a cartoon, you know? We're like, no way, you know? Like, so we grabbed like 3 of those and just like shoved them down my pants, and then we took like some photos in front of like the gold records with them on, and then we bounced, and I put them up on eBay because it was like right after the like Woodstock '99 where people got raped, girls got raped. And we put it up on eBay, sold it for like $1,000, and well, we sold all 3 of them for $1,000 each, but donated the money to like a rape crisis charity. And yeah, and then he started like responding like in Kerrang, in the British like rock press, and saying he was gonna like hire people to like beat us up and stuff. So there was like a month or 2 where we were like not really going out a lot in LA because we were like, fuck, dude, maybe these dudes are gonna hire someone to beat our asses.
Guilty!
Don't tell my girlfriend.
My God!
I remember meeting this girl at this party like years later, like 10 years later, and she was like, hey, I just have to tell you that you ruined my life for like 3 years. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she said she was Fred Durst's receptionist. And we would post his like office number, which was like the main Interscope number, and to get him, you would just dial Durst. So they like couldn't change the number. and she said she would get like 200 calls like a day, like fielding just like, hey, tell Fred Durst he's fat. Hey, tell him Limp Bizkit sucks. You know, just like all these like 14-year-old kids. We have a sampler where we prank called everyone from KoYan from the Yeah to the Strokes publicists to Burning Brides, you know, friends bands. A lot of what Buddyhead did was like just trying to make ourselves or our friends laugh. We would kind of forget that there was like a big audience. Icarus Line and I were on a US tour with our friends KoYan, who had, they'd recently been signed to RCA Records, which made them label mates with the Strokes. We were on this like 2-month US tour, like, you know, playing venues every night. And we got to North Carolina, I think it was, and they were like, yo, we're not on the show tonight, we're playing across town with the Strokes. And so we played with like the local band like to like 6 people, and we were like, this fucking sucks, you know? We're like, got out early, obviously, because there's no headliner, so we're like, fuck it, let's go check out the Strokes. We just walked in and we were just kind of offended by it all. It just seemed like these like, you know, Nepo babies. Like, you know, because like before they even had a record out, they were like on the cover of like every fashion magazine, you know? It was like, this is not real, you know what I mean? This is, so that was kind of like our take going into it. So yeah, we were just not impressed, and then their bus was parked out front, so we went in, saw a couple songs, and when we left, we tagged up the bus, Suckin' Dicks with $signs on the S's. Joe did Dicks, and I did Suckin', and then we took photos of it and videotaped it. Crazy story, I flew to New York like 2 days later, and ended up staying with my friend Gideon Yago, who at the time was on MTV News. And he like took me out that night, and we ended up drinking with the Strokes, and they like bought us drinks all night. And I was just like, dude, these guys have like no idea. We just tagged their bus. I think like 2 days after that, like it hit Spin, like we sent in the photos to Spin magazine. So it was like, you know, came out like days after that. Yeah, I never got a bill either. I always thought like their label would like bill us or something, but they never mentioned it or anything.
It's a little piece of cinematic gold.
When I was starting Buddyhead, like just a lot of like kind of like magical things happened. Like I would just kind of meet people or have instances that like doubled down or gave me confidence to continue what I was doing. And one of the ones was meeting Elliott Smith. I convinced my friend from Los Angeles, who had like no idea who Elliott Smith or any of the bands he was playing with were, to drive to Olympia to see this festival called Yo-Yo A-Go-Go, and it was thrown by K Records. It was like Bratmobile, Sleater Kinney, Calvin Johnson, Hovercraft, a bunch of like bands on their label, and it was like a 2-3 day fest at this at the Capitol Theater. And so we drove up from LA, it was like whatever, 20-hour drive. We walked up the alleyway, and Elliott Smith was outside smoking, and you know, he was just out there by himself, and went up and gave him the pitch. It was like, hey, we drove from LA to see you, can you get us in? And he was like, yeah, I've got 2 guest passes if you guys want to be my friends for the day. And we were like, fuck yeah, let's go. And so he like walked us in the backstage, and he had like a hat that said, who's the boss? And like every band that we, like, cause there was like a bunch of bands, cause it's like a festival, so there's like bands setting up drums, and every time he walks by someone, he's like, who's the boss? And they're like, you are Elliott, almost like he'd like been doing it all day, you know? And he walked us to like the side of the stage, and put me right there, and then like a few minutes later he went on and shot photos and videotaped some of it, and I was like fucking 19. I was like, this is sick, dude. He just won a Grammy, you know. He was a underground legend, you know. And then yeah, show was dope. Afterwards we went to some bar with him, which was probably like the second time I'd ever been in a bar in my entire life. Here we are hanging out with Elliott Smith at a bar, you know. I just couldn't even wrap my head around it. He kind of got dark after talking to us for a while, like third beer probably. He started talking about how ugly he was, and you know, just being a kid, I couldn't really conceptualize what was happening. It was a crazy experience and inspirational for me, honestly.
Coming live.
I always kind of documented my life, but once the Icarus Line started picking up steam, you know, because I watched them go from like playing like record stores to like 5 people to like, you know, playing the Reading Festival to like thousands of people, being on a major label, touring, you know, with these stadium bands. And once all that stuff kind of snowballed, we were like, oh, we're gonna make a movie. I just didn't think it would take like 25 years to finish it. The tapes themselves kind of have a crazy story because like it has been 25 years and they've changed hands like so many times. The pandemic was me putting like 9 of those into the computer every day because you gotta put them in real time, so you're basically like watching them, you know? So it's like I would try to do like 8 or 9 of those a day, which at the time was kind of heavy because you know, the tapes are like, you know, it's like my life. So it's a lot of people that are either dead or we're not friends with, or, you know, just a lot of things. So at first it was kind of heavy going into all that. It's about 250 hours of tapes total. I mean, a lot of that's like full shows and stuff like that. Like there'll be a 45-minute show. A lot of it is just me and my friends like on tour, like backstage, and a lot of times like the drummer of the Icarus Line, that we call him the captain, he's kind of like, he's kind of entertaining us, or I don't know, there's footage of Elliott Smith, there's some footage of Fugazi playing a free show in San Francisco in the park for Food Not Bombs. There's a Primal Scream tour footage. We got some footage of Lemmy. We found Lemmy one night and asked him what he thought of Buddyhead, and he was like, I like Motorhead better. It's kind of like that time right before everyone has a cell phone and a social media. So it's kind of like the death rattle of the old world. I mean, it's different than now too, because like no one's worried about it like showing up online the next day. You know what I mean? Like it took 25 years for everyone to see it, so everyone's kind of like cool with it, you know? It's a different world, you know? It's like I got people like doing cocaine on video and stuff, but it's like you couldn't do that now because like it could be online like that. It was stuck on these tapes for 25 years, so everyone's either like in a totally different life or dead or just doesn't care.
I need a drink.
It's just kind of like our story, really. Traversing through that era of time and like independent labels and major labels and just like the music industry at large.
What's that one you're always singing to me when we're asleep?
Sorry.
If you see my sunshine.
I'm very proud of this doc. It feels like everything I've done is kind of been leading up to this in a weird way. It's a story of my life and Joe's life, the Icarus Line, and going through like everything. I'm so grateful that I did document it because like now it kind of gets like a second life, and all these people that know me now can check it out and stuff. I think like we've had interest from Hulu and stuff, but I think no matter what, we'll do like our kind of, not X-rated, but like unedited version that's like, you know, probably sell it on our own website, and then if people are interested and want to do another version, that's possible too, you know? Something that's like can be on streaming or not, whatever, I don't care. Maybe also like it'll inspire people to like make their own shit too, you know?
Buddyhead.com magazine. Could you say hi, Buddyhead?
Music website.
Huge fans. Buddyhead.
Heavy metal.
You are Travis Keller, and you're watching Buddyhead.com.